Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from Yellowcat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. What is your most memorable story of petty revenge? Part 2. I worked in restaurants during college in various roles from 2003 to 6, server, bartender, in the kitchen, etc. I once picked up a catering shift for an event of a few hundred people. We had a few bars set up and had a handful of food stations with people at each location to serve the guests. The rest of us were to keep the place clean by walking around and picking up glasses, plates, and trash. We were not supposed to serve drinks or food, as that was handled by the people at their respective stations. As I was walking around tidying up, a man physically grabbed me by my arm, I'm a tall male, and proceeded to demand a glass of water. I calmly told him that I wasn't allowed to serve guests food or drink. He squeezed my arm harder and told me to get him water and said, "Why don't you understand what I'm asking? It's quite simple." The bartender at the bar 10 feet away was watching this happen. I loudly asked the bartender if he had any water for the man and he said, "Nope, no water." I told the man there wasn't any water and I'm sorry. He wouldn't accept this and told me, "You can go find water and I will stand here and wait." I went to the bar, grabbed a glass of ice, had another server watch my back as I scooped water out of the toilet. I put the glass on a tray, added a paper napkin, lime slice, and a straw before going back to the man. I handed him the water and apologized for the inconvenience. I watched as he drank the glass of water. He handed me the empty glass and told me, "See, that wasn't so hard." I told him I know where to get him water if he wanted more later on. Turns out, he was the man that paid for us to be at the event and owned the venue. F that guy. My company has a password policy that locks your account after 3 wrong password attempts. A few times when someone irritates me, I'll lock my computer, switch user, and enter their username with a wrong password 3 times so they get locked out. Now they have to deal with help desk to unlock their account. Mid-90s, living in triplex in fancy city neighborhood. New downstairs neighbor is pure B from H, rude to people. When I rescued her cat, she grabbed the poor thing so fast that it scratched me and she didn't even say thanks. Sent my roommate, who struggled with weight, a note about his fat footfalls keeping me up all night. Went on for a year. Was up late one night instant messaging a colleague over AOL Instant Messenger. This was long ago, kids, when some random guy mistook my gender-bent username as female. Boy, did he pester me. For 2 hours, he kept sending me messages, just wouldn't take no, served dozens of different ways for an answer. Finally, I broke down. "Yes," I said, "yes, I will talk with you. Here's my phone number." I sent him the number of the bee downstairs. Phone rang in about 2 seconds. I heard her answer, and about after 3 seconds, she started yelling into the phone. He called her back 3 to 4 times. Each time I heard the phone ring downstairs, thin walls, I would laugh so hard I'd almost cry. 2 decades ago, I worked as a telemarketer. The worst of jobs. They had me selling SJCPenney life insurance. I'd just made a rather large sale of said S insurance to what was clearly a very old lady. At the end of the sale, I told the lady I was going to cancel her order because she clearly didn't know what she was getting herself into. Also, she reminded me of my grandmother. I just couldn't do it to her. I knew the product was straight S. Well, my manager was listening to the call. He called me into his office and yelled at me for 5 straight minutes for canceling that sale. I told him I'd rather be fired than do the wrong thing to that lady. He fired me on the spot. 1 year later, said manager was working at a Perkins restaurant as a host/waiter. I sent my order back 3 times even though it was correct each time, and then asked to speak with his manager, to which I laid into him about his service. I feel bad about it as of this writing, but at the time it was such sweet revenge. When living in New York, my husband left for deployment right as winter started. I'm from Arizona, so snow was a nice thing for me. Our neighbors were this a-hole couple who thought the world owed them. The husband was an E1 and they were both young. This is the norm in a military town. One evening, I come home from work to see about 3 inches of snow covering our parking lot. A handful of my neighbors are out shoveling so we can get in. I get out and join them. They did a lot more work than I did, but I did get our 2 spots cleared. Moved my cars in and went inside. It took about an hour. Next morning, I leave for work, notice the neighbors are parked off to the side as they couldn't get into their spot without shoveling, and come back to maybe 2 more inches of fallen snow. Go to pull into my spot, except it's covered in snow, like 6 inches of snow. Oh, but look, a-holes are parked in their perfect and clean spot. So I pulled off to the side and waited. They left at 2 a.m. for a party. I went out and reshoveled the snow from my spot into theirs, and then our other neighbor's snow into their spot as well. Packed it down a little too. My other neighbor comes home around this time, sees what I've done, and laughs and gives me a high five. He said they do this every time it snows. Went inside, defrosted, and went to bed. Was woken up at about 5 a.m. to Pete off screaming outside. Fell back asleep and woke up at 9 to even angrier screams because apparently we had some heat wave between 2 and 9 that started to melt the snow and then another freeze that refroze it. So now they were dealing with ice. They never messed with my spot again. I used to be a VCR tech. We couldn't really fix much in store, we had to send it out. People were always wanting something fixed, but didn't want to pay over $100 to fix it, since you could buy a new one for half that. We had one guy that didn't want to pay to get his VCR fixed. Fine, come and get it. But he didn't. I had to make phone calls every couple of days to people that had things there to be picked up. I called this guy at least 2 times a week for months. We could destroy a customer's item if we did a specific procedure. Send out a first, second, and final warning through certified mail. I sent these out every week. Because customer service gets the mail and sucked at giving me the return receipts, it took me almost a year to get receipts of all 3 letters. Usually when I destroy one, we smash it with a hammer and throw it in the compactor. Sometimes I would let someone that was upset with a customer smack one with the hammer. Not this one. I took it apart. Every single screw, every piece. Kept the VCR heads as a trophy. Then the a-hole showed up to pick it up the next day. Wait here. Went and got this stack of paperwork I had sent, call logs, and called my manager. Told him the story, gave him the paperwork, and we walked up to the customer. Customer lost his ass. I want a new one. No, not going to happen. There isn't anything left of it? I snatched up the trophy. I said, I think this is a piece of it. Want it? Felt so good to have that name off my list. I was working at a call center. My coworker, who has a very southern accent, gets a call in. The woman on the other line detects her accent and gives her a hard time. She then requests someone intelligent with better English. My coworker tells the woman her English is fine and she can assist her. The lady says something to the effect of, "Just transfer me to someone else, B." My coworker then sends her to the Spanish line. I about died from the laughter. I worked at this bar for 5 years. I was a bartender and served tables depending on my shift, but for having been there longer than anyone else, it was expected/fair that I get more bar shifts. This place, like most, was an effing wreck. The managers were always S after the originals left, and everyone that worked there acted out at some point. There was no HR, so nothing changed. I never called out, asked to switch my shift, who needed someone to cover me. Anyway, I finally put in my 2 weeks, and in the last week, one of the managers gave me a serving shift the second to last day. I called out because F that, I didn't want to work it. The manager got peed naturally and told me that I would have to find someone to cover me, lol. I never did. I ignored the request and went back to sleep. Came in for my last day, a bar shift, and acted like nothing happened. Funny note is someone told me the manager wanted to make me serve tables and not bartend that day. I almost wish she had, so I could have lived out what I had dreamed all those years and walk out during a shift and leave them hanging. I got fired from my job at a bar that has a nice fancy jukebox. If you have the app, you can just pick songs on your credit card and they'll play. If you hit play next on a song, even if they turn the jukebox off, it'll play when it starts back up. It's also unskippable. They lost the master remote, which lets you skip songs, so if someone chooses a song everyone else hates, there's nothing at all you can do. The owner does inventory every Tuesday night. It also happens to be a busy night because they do pool tournaments and it usually gets packed. I got $20 in credit, and that usually gives you about 18 unskippable songs, plus more depending if the app gifts you credits. I picked a remix of Cotton Eye Joe that comes in at around 7 minutes a pop. 2 hours of hearing the same song has killed their business on Tuesdays. Even if they unplug it, it'll still play when they plugged it back up. I've been doing it for 2 months so far. When I was a waitress, I had bleach blonde hair and was a cute 20-something. In order to make good tips but still be able to be a bee to my customers, I pretended I was a dumb blonde. People used to come in, and even though there was a huge "please wait to be seated," customers would sit at dirty tables. When they did that, I would walk by them. Sometimes I'd refill their coffee or say, "Can I get you anything else?" The customer would say, "We haven't eaten yet. Can you clear the table and get us menus?" I would act shocked and angry. "That hostess sat you at a dirty table? OMG, I'm going to tell the manager!" They would then explain how they sat themselves, and I would just smile and say, "Oh," laugh and smile, "okay, well, you need to go wait at the front and the hostess will seat you at a clean table and get you menus." Then I would walk away. It was one of many dumb blonde things I did as a waitress. I'm still passive-aggressive. This was about 15 years ago on college while I was a host at a crummy Mexican restaurant. It's a normal, busy Saturday night, and this guy walks in right past me, circles through the whole restaurant, and comes back and points out the table he wants to sit at. I do exactly as he asks. I know what he was doing. He did not want to sit by any kids. Now, what happened next was completely avoidable, but he peed me off by acting like a smug jerk. I proceeded to surround him with every party with kids. Loud kids, messy kids, small kids, birthday parties. I've got the perfect seat for you. I could see that he was ready to erupt, but it was too funny. He came up and yelled at me in front of the entire restaurant for the slights. I played dumb and then went in the back and laughed my A off with everyone else. I used to work at Target, retail store for those who don't know. In the break room, we have a fridge which we all use. Couple of days in a row, I would buy orange and apple juice to take home, off topic, but I bought it on break because I used public transportation and the bus arrived 5 minutes after I got off, so it was always a rush or wait another hour, and write a note saying, "Please do not drink," and place in fridge. Of course, by the time I got off and decides to get my juice, it would be all gone or half gone. Being peed after dealing with this for about 5 days, I bought a large apple and orange juice and the strongest laxative in the store. Mixed them and left it in the fridge with the same note as usual. Next 5 hours of my shift was the best ever. I mean, just about everyone was going, from store manager cutting meetings short to cashiers leaving in the middle of transactions. If you want to watch the part 1, click the link here. Thank you for watching. Guys, thank you for all of the support and likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.